Well, I want to be up front with you this morning. The message I have prepared for you, some of you might find some of the information shocking, disturbing, definitely uncomfortable to talk about. But if you pay attention, I think you'll be strengthened in your faith. I think you will learn about God and learn about your relationship with God. But the issue on the table this morning is I want to explain to you why Matthew, a Jew, wrote to Jews to prove to them that Jesus was the Messiah. And what you have to realize going into this is that the Jews, at the time that Matthew was writing, at the time that Jesus came to the earth, the Jews were steeped in a religion called Judaism. And in that religion, they did not believe that Jesus was the Messiah. Now again, some of this may be new to you, and if it is, it's going to be a little uncomfortable probably to hear. But I want you to know something, that if you don't understand it, you will not understand the Gospel of Matthew, and that is this: Judaism is not the religion of Abraham and David. Judaism is not the religion of the Old Testament. Judaism is a false religion based on misinterpretations of the Old Testament. And I know sometimes that's uncomfortable to hear when you point out a faith, a religion, and you call it a false religion, and it's uncomfortable. Sometimes we don't like to say things like that, but you have to understand that in order to understand the Gospel of Matthew. Judaism is a false religion based on the misinterpretations of the Old Testament. When did Judaism begin? It actually began in what we call the silent years, in between the Old Testament and the New. Judaism came into being in that 500 years. So several hundred years before Christ came to the earth, Judaism was developed. Now, if you understand that correctly, you realize that Christianity did not branch out of Judaism. Christianity did not come from Judaism. In fact, another misnomer is Christianity did not start on the day of Pentecost. Christianity did not start in the first century. When did Christianity start? Well, Christianity, at its core, is the oldest religion in the world, because it literally started in Genesis 3:15 when God Himself gave the gospel to Adam and Eve and required them to trust by faith in the one who would come and destroy the works of the devil. And so Adam and Eve were the first two people, and happened to be the first two humans on the face of the earth, but those two people were the first ones who put faith in Jesus Christ. And therefore, that's when, technically, Christianity began. It began at the beginning of time. It began with the first two human beings. So Judaism developed later, many years later. It developed only a few hundred years before Jesus was born, and it was developed based on distortions of the Old Testament Scripture. Matter of fact, we're in Matthew this morning. If you go to Matthew chapter 5, and look at chapters 5, 6, and 7, you see there what is known as Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. It is 3 full chapters. It is the longest sermon recorded in the Gospels, and as far as I know, the longest sermon recorded in the Bible. And it was preached by Jesus, and here was the issue. Jesus was preaching to Jews who were steeped in Judaism, and He was correcting their theology. If you read through the Sermon on the Mount, you'll notice Jesus saying over and over again, "You've heard it said, but I'm telling you," or "You have believed this, but let me correct your belief." And that's basically what He was doing. He was taking their theology that was a twist of the Old Testament. It was a skewing of the Old Testament, and He was correcting it. He was correcting their theology. And so basically, he was preaching to them a very wonderful theological sermon to draw them back to the truth of the Old Testament Scripture and out of their Judaism. And so, Judaism was on the scene when Jesus arrived. And Judaism caused these Jews to miss the fact that Jesus was the Messiah. Now, I want to show you something this morning. I want to show you that what I'm sharing with you is fact. It is fact. On March the 6th, 2004, an article was published on Aish.com, which is, by the way, the largest Jewish content website on the internet. It's a prominent website and a very good website. But it's all about Jewish theology and Judaism. The article that was published on March the 6th, 2004 was written by Rabbi Shraga Simmons and was entitled, "Why Jews Don't Believe in Jesus." Why Jews Don't Believe in Jesus. And the article has many of the reasons, and this you'll see on the screen this morning is just a screenshot of that website. So I can show you, you can go and research what I'm telling you this morning. You can look at it yourself, and you'll notice many of the reasons that the Jews do not believe in Jesus. I'm going to focus on two of their reasons this morning, and just two, because those two will sufficiently illustrate my point. And that is this: Jews do not accept Jesus as the Messiah because they believe that Jesus was not qualified to be the Messiah, nor did he fulfill the messianic prophecies. All right, this is two of the big reasons that Jews rejected Jesus. They believed he did not qualify to be the Messiah, and he did not fulfill messianic prophecies.